There is a moment in every person's life, a quiet, unannounced moment, where they stand at the edge of who they are and who the world wants them to be. No cameras, no audience, no applause, just silence. And in that silence, a question rises from somewhere deep inside the chest, not loud, not dramatic, but persistent, like a heartbeat you suddenly become aware of. The question is simple. Do I follow what is expected of me, or do I trust what lives within me? That question, my friends, is not a new one. It has been asked in candlelit rooms by poets who were told their words would never matter. It has been asked in laboratories by scientists who were laughed out of lecture halls. It has been asked by ordinary people, farmers, teachers, mothers, students, people whose names history may never record, but whose quiet courage shaped the world more than we will ever fully understand. And every single time that question was answered with trust, with reliance on something deeper than approval, something extraordinary happened. Today I want to talk to you about reliance. Not the word we use loosely in conversation, not the shallow version of it that gets printed on motivational posters and forgotten by Monday morning. I want to talk about the kind of reliance that costs something, the kind that makes your hands shake but keeps your feet moving, the kind that does not come from certainty, because certainty is a luxury most of us never get, but from something quieter and far more powerful. I want to talk about reliance as it exists inside the framework of conformity, inside the systems, the institutions, the cultures that hand out their awards and their approvals and their recognitions. And I want to ask what it truly means to be rewarded within those systems while staying whole. Because conformity is not always the villain we make it out to be. Let us be honest about that. There is a wisdom in systems. There is a reason we have structures. Rules exist because chaos is not freedom. Chaos is just another kind of prison. When we speak of conformity, we are not always speaking of oppression. Sometimes we are simply speaking of shared language. A musician who learns the rules of harmony is not surrendering their soul. They are learning the grammar so that one day they can write poetry no one has ever heard before. A lawyer who studies precedent is not becoming a machine. They are absorbing the weight of human struggle so they can carry it forward with intention. Conformity at its best is a foundation, not a ceiling. But here is where it gets complicated. Here is where the story turns. Because conformity has a shadow, and that shadow is seductive. It does not come announcing itself as something dangerous. It does not arrive with a warning. It arrives as comfort. It arrives as belonging. It arrives as the warm feeling of being accepted, of being seen, of being handed an award and told, "You did it right. You did it the way we wanted. And we are proud of you." And who does not want that? Who among us has never felt the desperate, achingly human desire to be told they are enough, that they belong, that the people around them, the ones they respect, the ones they love, the ones whose opinions settle into their bones like winter cold, are pleased? We all want it, every single one of us. And there is no shame in that. The shame, if there is any, is in what we sometimes sacrifice to get it. This is where reliance enters the room. Reliance is the decision, made not once but constantly, renewed every morning like a vow, to trust in something that cannot be seen, cannot be verified by external applause, cannot be confirmed by a certificate or a trophy or a standing ovation. Reliance is the quiet act of returning to your own truth when everything around you is pulling you away from it. It is not arrogance. Arrogance says I am always right. Reliance says I am willing to be wrong, but I will not be dishonest. Those are very different things. When we talk about the power of reliance in the context of awards, in the context of conformity, we are really talking about what happens to a person when recognition becomes the goal rather than the result. We are talking about the slow, almost invisible transformation that happens when someone begins to shape themselves around what wins rather than what is true. And I want you to understand, this transformation does not happen overnight. It does not happen in a single dramatic betrayal of self. It happens in small moments. A sentence you do not say because you are afraid of how it will land. An idea you soften because the room is not ready for the full version of it. A dream you quietly fold and slide under the bed because someone important told you it was not practical. And then another sentence, and another softened idea, and another folded dream. Until one day you look in the mirror and you see someone successful, someone recognized, someone with a shelf full of awards, and you feel a strange, hollow ache because you cannot fully recognize the person looking back at you. That ache has a name. It is called the cost of borrowed approval, and I am not standing here today to tell you that all awards are hollow or that all recognition is corrupt. That would be dishonest and it would be unfair. There are awards given to people who fully deserve them, not because they played the game well, but because they brought something real, something costly and genuine and hard-won into the world. There are moments when a system recognizes exactly what it should recognize, when the best work, the most honest work, the work that came from the deepest place inside a human being, is also the work that receives the loudest applause. And in those moments, something beautiful happens. The external and the internal align. The world outside says yes to what the world inside already knew. And that is not shallow. That is a kind of grace. But those moments are precious precisely because they are not guaranteed. They are not the norm. More often, the world rewards what is familiar, what is safe, what is easy to categorize and understand. The world gives its awards to what fits. And so the person who wants to be recognized faces a choice that repeats itself across an entire lifetime, in different rooms and different contexts and different costumes. But it is always the same choice at its core. Do I fit or do I stay true? And here is what I have come to believe. With everything I have observed and read and felt and lived through, I believe the answer is not a binary one. I believe the greatest among us are not the ones who chose one or the other. I believe the greatest among us are the ones who developed such a deep and unshakable reliance on their own inner compass that they could walk into any system, receive any award, bow to any necessary convention, and still walk out intact, still walk out whole, still walk out knowing who they were before the applause started. That is the power of reliance. It does not make you a rebel without reason. It does not make you difficult or uncooperative or impossible to work with. It makes you anchored, and an anchored person is the most powerful kind of person in any room, in any organization, in any moment of history, because everyone can feel it when someone is anchored. Everyone can feel the difference between a person who is saying what they believe and a person who is saying what they calculated you want to hear. The anchored person does not need to be loud. They do not need to be aggressive. They simply need to be consistent, consistently returning to what is real within them, no matter how many distractions arrive dressed as opportunities. Think about the people who changed things. Not just historically. Think about the people in your own life who changed something for you, who shifted the way you saw the world. Were they the ones who agreed with everything? Were they the ones who shaped themselves perfectly around every expectation? Or were they the ones who, at some quiet but crucial moment, said something true, something that cost them a little something, and in saying it cracked open a light that you had not seen before? Reliance is what makes that possible. Not genius, not talent, though talent certainly helps. Reliance, the bone-deep decision to trust what you know, to speak what you see, to offer the world your actual self rather than a carefully edited, approval-seeking version of it. Now, and this is important, reliance is not passive. This is where people sometimes misunderstand it. They hear the word and they think it means waiting, trusting the universe, letting go. And while there is wisdom in surrender, true reliance is deeply active. It requires you to do the work, to know yourself well enough that you have something to rely on, because you cannot rely on an empty room. If you have never sat with your own thoughts, if you have never asked yourself the hard questions, if you have never stood alone in silence and listened to what rises, then reliance is just a word, a beautiful word with nothing behind it. You build reliance the way you build anything real, through practice, through discomfort, through the repeated act of choosing your truth, even when it is inconvenient, even when it costs you something, even when the easier path is right there, smooth and wide and lined with applause. And here, within the award of conformity, within the moment when a system offers you its recognition, its validation, its stamp of approval, that is precisely where your reliance is tested most. Because in that moment, the temptation is not to rebel. The temptation is to belong, to finally feel like enough, to take the award and let it answer the question you have been carrying. Am I worth something? Does what I do matter? Does who I am count? And the answer is yes, but not because of the award. The answer was yes before the award. The answer was yes in the silence, in the struggle, in the rejected drafts and the failed attempts and the nights when no one was watching and you chose to keep going anyway. The award can acknowledge that yes, but it cannot create it. When you know that, when you feel it in your body, not just understand it in your head, something shifts. You stop needing the award to tell you who you are. And paradoxically, strangely, beautifully, that is often when you begin to receive it. Because the world is drawn to people who do not need it. The world is drawn to people who bring something real. And real things are built in private, built in silence, built on the foundation of genuine reliance. So I want to leave you with this. The next time you are standing at the edge, between what is expected and what is true, remember that reliance is not the absence of fear. It is not the absence of doubt. It is not even the absence of wanting to belong. It is the presence of something stronger, something you have built, quietly, through every honest choice you ever made. It is the accumulated weight of your own integrity, and it is more powerful than any award any system can offer you, because no system can take it away. The award of conformity is a gift the world gives you when you play by its rules. The power of reliance is a gift you give yourself when you refuse to lose yourself in the playing. And the rarest, most magnificent human beings are the ones who find a way to hold both, to move within the world as it is, to honor its structures and its languages and its necessary rules, while carrying inside them an unbreakable thread that leads always back to who they truly are. That thread is reliance. Guard it, feed it, trust it, because in the end, when everything else fades, the trophies collect dust, the applause moves on to someone else, the names in the programs yellow at the edges, what remains is only this: what you were when no one was watching, what you chose when the choice was hard, what you held on to when everything was pulling you toward the easier answer. That is your real award, and no conformity in the world can give it to you or take it away.